Danielle Brooks stepped through the grand entrance of the Waldorf Astoria ballroom, her heels echoing sharply on the marble floor. Two 12-year-old children walked beside her, Jalen in a fitted navy suit, Ariel in an elegant satin dress. Heads turned, champagne flutes paused midair. The bride froze at the altar, and when Cameron Whitaker, the groom, looked into the boy's eyes, his soul seemed to shatter. Whispers filled the room. Those kids, they looked just like him. This wasn't a crash. It was a reckoning. She didn't come for revenge. She came with something more powerful. The truth. If you think that moment shook the wedding, you haven't heard half of it. This story isn't about a woman seeking revenge. It's about a woman who was discarded, lied to, and forced to rebuild her life, only to return years later with the very thing they claimed she could never have. Stick around to the end. This isn't just drama. It's betrayal, secrets, and justice 12 years in the making. You won't believe what they did to her, or what she revealed in front of everyone. So before we dive deeper, hit that subscribe button if you love powerful stories that twist your heart, and don't forget to comment your favorite part at the end. This one will leave you speechless. Now let's rewind 12 years to the moment they broke her. 12 years earlier, Danielle sat in a cold, overly lit fertility clinic beside her husband, Cameron. The doctor walked in with a grim face, holding a folder that would change her life. "I'm sorry, Danielle," he said. "Your chances of conceiving are non-existent." Her world spun. Her body felt like it betrayed her. Cameron placed a hand on her back, but it was stiff, disconnected. She whispered, "Are you sure?" But he didn't meet her eyes. That was the first sign. The real betrayal didn't come from the diagnosis. It came from the silence that followed in her husband's heart. Days after the appointment, Cameron's mother, Margaret Whitaker, invited Danielle for lunch at their family's country club in Buckhead. "Sweetheart," she said, sipping wine, "you've been a good wife, but Cameron needs children. Real legacy. A future." Danielle's stomach turned. "Are you saying I should step aside?" Margaret gave her that thin, polished smile. "I'm saying it will be dignified." Danielle clenched her fists under the table. That's when it clicked. They had been waiting for this excuse. The so-called diagnosis wasn't just a tragedy. It was their ticket to push her out. A week later, Cameron came home with a manila envelope. "We need to talk," he said, avoiding her eyes. Danielle stared at the folder as he placed it gently on the coffee table. Divorce papers. No argument. No discussion. Just done. "Why?" she asked, voice cracking. "I don't want to keep holding on to something that'll never happen," he said coldly. "We deserve different futures." She begged, cried, even offered adoption, but his heart had already left. What she didn't know was that the documents were pre-planned, timed perfectly after that fake fertility report. The betrayal ran far deeper. Danielle packed her things slowly, painfully, stuffing years of memories into cardboard boxes. Margaret supervised like a manager at a job termination. "Don't forget the guest room closet," she added, not even looking at her. Danielle held back tears. She wanted to scream, to tell the world how cruel they were being, but she said nothing. The house she helped build was no longer hers. As the door shut behind her, she felt hollow, but deep inside her, something stirred. A silence, a flicker, a change. 1 month later, Danielle moved into a modest apartment on the outskirts of South Fulton, far from the luxury and lies she had left behind. She took a job as a front desk assistant at a legal aid office, barely scraping by. Her nights were long, filled with silence and unanswered questions. Then came the fatigue, the nausea, the dizziness. She dismissed it as stress until she fainted at work and was rushed to urgent care. The nurse returned with wide eyes. "Miss Brooks, you're pregnant." Danielle's mouth fell open. Pregnant. Her voice cracked. "With twins," the nurse added. Danielle collapsed in tears. Danielle sat in her tiny bathroom, holding the hospital's ultrasound printout with trembling hands. 2 perfect little heartbeats. Tears rolled down her cheeks, not from fear, but disbelief. She had been told she couldn't have children. They kicked her out over it. Now this? She picked up her phone and dialed Cameron's number. Disconnected. She tried his office. Gone. She sent a message through his assistant. No reply. Then she called Margaret. The woman answered with ice in her voice. Danielle, this chapter is over. Do not contact us again. Click. Danielle stared out her window all night, watching headlights trail down the street like ghosts. She didn't know what scared her more, being pregnant with no support or knowing that no one cared. She considered giving up, just disappearing. But then she felt it, a gentle flutter in her belly. Life, purpose, a second chance. She pressed her hand to her stomach and whispered, "You're mine, and I'll protect you." In that moment, something shifted inside her. The same woman they called barren was about to become a mother, and no one could take that away from her now. Danielle worked double shifts at the legal office and picked up extra weekend cleaning jobs just to stay afloat. Her belly grew, her back ached, but she kept pushing. When she finally went into labor, she had no partner, no family, no flowers, just grit and faith. After hours of pain, she heard it. 2 tiny cries, seconds apart. The nurse smiled. "Congratulations, Miss Brooks." A boy and a girl. She named them Jalen and Ariel. Her hands shook as she held them for the first time. They were beautiful. The next few months were brutal. Danielle nursed the twins by day and studied for her law degree by night. Sleep was rare. Tears were frequent. But every time Jalen gripped her finger or Ariel smiled in her sleep, it reminded her what she was fighting for. She'd placed a photo of the 3 of them on her fridge, a symbol of everything they said she'd never have. No child support, no visits, not even a text. Still, she rose daily with purpose. Danielle wasn't surviving anymore. She was rebuilding. 5 years later, Danielle graduated with honors and passed the bar exam on her first try. She opened her own law firm specializing in family injustice. Women pushed out, discarded, ignored. Her story gave her power. Clients trusted her. She won case after case. Jalen and Ariel, now in kindergarten, thrived in school. Ariel loved to draw. Jalen was quiet but curious. They asked about their dad sometimes. Danielle would smile gently. "You'll understand one day." She kept her past private, not from shame, but protection. Each year brought new growth. Danielle bought a small home, gave the kids a backyard, and hired her first associate at the law firm. Life was stable. But sometimes, while folding laundry or listening to the twins laugh, she'd feel it, a hollow space. Not regret, just a ghost of the woman she used to be. Her therapist called it unresolved grief. Danielle called it fire. "They took my voice once," she said. "They won't do it again." That's when she started investigating her past, not just emotionally, but legally. She wanted closure. What she found shocked her. Danielle was reviewing documents for a client's medical malpractice suit when she spotted something. A name, Dr. Francis Leon, her old fertility doctor. He was now under investigation for falsifying records. Her heart skipped. She pulled her own medical file from a sealed box she hadn't opened in years. She scanned the report. Something was off. The dates didn't align. The test results were labeled copied. Her stomach turned. She ran it through her office's forensic team. The results came back within 48 hours. Her fertility report was doctored, completely fake. Her infertility had been a lie. She sat in her office chair for what felt like hours, frozen. Every heartbeat echoed like thunder in her ears. She wasn't infertile. She never had been. Cameron and Margaret lied. They paid off a doctor to manufacture a diagnosis that would justify throwing her out. Her chest tightened with rage, not for herself, but for her children. "They didn't just betray me," she whispered. "They stole a father from my kids." That night, she didn't sleep. She just stared at her children while they slept peacefully, unaware of the storm that had begun to swirl outside their world. The next morning, Danielle hired a private investigator to dig up everything. Payment records, audio recordings, internal memos. Within days, she had a full file, signed affidavits, emails between Cameron and the clinic. Even a note from Margaret stating, "We need this woman out. Make it official." Danielle's hand shook. This wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated cruelty. She could take them to court. She could sue the clinic. But that wouldn't heal her. There was only one way to settle this. She looked at the invitation her friend had shown her online. Cameron Whitaker is getting married, it read. Danielle stared at the wedding announcement for a long time. Cameron Whitaker to wed Olivia Hastings, daughter of State Senator Warren Hastings. Of course, the marriage wasn't about love. It was about image, power, reputation. She closed the laptop. Heart pounding. 12 years, she whispered. And you still think the past won't catch up. She walked into Jalen and Ariel's room. They were drawing on the floor, laughing. She knelt beside them. How would you like to wear something really fancy next weekend? Jalen blinked. Like church fancy? Danielle smiled. Better. We're going to a wedding. Wedding day. The ballroom shimmered with gold and ivory decorations. Cameramen circled. Guests in expensive suits sipped champagne beneath crystal chandeliers. Danielle stepped through the glass doors, her navy gown hugging her form with quiet elegance. Jalen and Ariel walked beside her, calm and poised. Heads turned. Whispers began. Who's she? Wait, is that... Cameron stood at the altar, laughing with the officiant, until he turned and locked eyes with her. His laughter died. His jaw dropped. His glass slipped from his hand. Margaret clutched her pearls. Olivia, radiant in white, followed his gaze and froze. The guests went silent as Danielle walked down the aisle. Not like a woman begging for answers, but like one delivering judgment. Jalen held her left hand. Ariel clutched the right. Danielle's eyes never left Cameron. She stopped just a few feet from the altar. Before you say I do, she said, her voice clear and calm, you should know what you left behind. She opened her purse, pulled out a folder, and held it up to the projector operator. You told everyone I was barren. This says otherwise. The screen lit up behind her. The silence shattered. Emails, signed affidavits, altered medical reports, doctor testimonies. It all played like courtroom evidence in a silent ballroom. 12 years ago, Danielle said, your groom and his mother bribed my doctor to fake infertility results. They used it to push me out, and they succeeded. But what they didn't know is that I was already pregnant when I left. Gasps echoed. Margaret stood up. This is slander. Danielle turned slowly. No, Margaret, it's justice. And you left your signature in the clinic's ledgers. Margaret's face flushed red. She sat back down, trembling. Olivia stepped forward, eyes locked on the two children. They looked just like... She turned to Cameron, her voice trembling. You told me she was infertile, she whispered. You said she was out of your life for good. Her eyes welled with tears. You lied to me. She pulled off her diamond engagement ring and dropped it on the floor. It clinked once, twice, then silence. I won't marry a man who hides his children and destroys women. She turned and walked out, tears streaking her perfect bridal makeup. The guests parted like water, watching her disappear into the corridor. Cameron stood motionless, his mouth opened then closed. No words. His gaze moved to Jalen and Ariel. Jalen tilted his head, confused. Ariel blinked and whispered, is he crying? Cameron's eyes filled with tears as he realized the truth. He had erased his own legacy. They're mine, he asked, voice hoarse. Danielle didn't answer. She didn't need to. The resemblance was undeniable. The weight of what he'd done hit him harder than any slap ever could. He stepped forward slightly, reaching out. Jalen stepped back. Don't, he said quietly. Margaret rose again, desperate to regain control. This is nonsense. We did what was best for our family. That woman wasn't right for you, Cameron, she barked. But this time, no one supported her. Friends turned their eyes. Old colleagues looked away. She had ruled her social circle like a queen. Now she stood alone. Danielle turned to her with grace. You didn't just push me out. You robbed your grandchildren of a father. You buried the truth for your pride. Margaret sat down, defeated, the whispers around her sharpening like knives. 10 minutes later, Danielle gently placed a folder on a nearby table. This isn't about revenge. I just wanted the truth known before it was buried again. Jalen and Ariel stood beside her, tall, quiet, watching. "We're going now," she said calmly. No yelling, no begging. She walked away with dignity. To the center of the ballroom, every heel click echoing like punctuation. Guests stared, unsure whether to applaud or cry. Cameron stood frozen at the altar, hollow and helpless. Olivia was gone. Margaret had fallen silent. And Danielle? She was already gone, free. Outside, the sun was setting, casting a golden glow across the stone steps. Danielle exhaled deeply. Jalen looked up at her. "Mom, is it over?" She smiled. "It is now." Ariel squeezed her hand. "I'm proud of you." Danielle knelt down, holding both children close. "No, I'm proud of you." They looked back once, through the ballroom's glass walls. Cameron was still standing, staring into nothing. Guests had begun leaving. Margaret was slumped in a corner, dignity shattered. The empire they built on lies had finally crumbled. Danielle had brought no fire, just light, and the truth for the whole world to see. They reached the car. Danielle opened the door, letting the twins climb in first. As she sat behind the wheel, her hands steadied. She had carried this truth for 12 years. And now, it no longer controlled her. As she pulled into traffic, she didn't look back. Not once. The camera inside the ballroom captured Cameron still frozen in place. The once powerful CO reduced to silence. And with that, Danielle drove off into a new chapter. Not as someone's ex-wife, but as a mother, a warrior, and a woman who won. Later that evening, Danielle tucked Ariel into bed and kissed Jalen's forehead as he curled beneath his covers. The twins had returned home full of questions, but also peace. "You didn't yell at him," Ariel said softly. Danielle smiled. "I didn't have to. The truth was louder than anything I could have said." She closed her bedroom door and leaned against the wall, letting the quiet hold her. She wasn't angry anymore, not broken, just still. For the first time in 12 years, there was nothing left to fear. Across town, Cameron sat alone in his penthouse, staring at the open laptop in front of him. On the screen, a photo of the twins taken by a wedding guest. He zoomed in on their faces, Jalen's nose, Ariel's eyes. His own features stared back. For years, he had climbed ladders, built empires, and surrounded himself with power. But tonight, none of that mattered. He had missed first words, first steps, school plays, birthdays. He whispered to no one, "I lost everything." His phone buzzed. Olivia's number. He didn't answer. Margaret sat on the edge of her guest bedroom, gripping the edge of her designer sheets. She had ruled her world with silence and influence. But now, her name was attached to scandal. Her face was all over social blogs and bridal gossip forums. No one returned her calls. Her kingdom had vanished in a day. She picked up the wedding invitation, now useless, and tore it in half, then in quarters. She was never supposed to come back, she muttered. But Danielle had, and she brought truth with her. Margaret had rewritten history. Danielle restored it. Danielle stood by her bedroom window, watching moonlight dance across her lawn. In the reflection, her children's drawings lined the walls, stick figures of their family. She smiled, not bitterly, but warmly. "They said I couldn't be a mother," she whispered. "But look at us now." She didn't need applause, apologies, or revenge. The truth had spoken. The world had listened, and justice had echoed louder than vengeance ever could. As she turned off the light, her voiceover whispered, "She didn't come to ruin his wedding. She came to finish the story they tried to erase."